So welcome everybody who is here for our webinar on the Masters in Psychology at DMU. My name is Julia Classley. I'm the program director. I've been with DMU for almost 8 years and have loved it and love the MSP. For tonight, we'll give a little bit of an overview of the program, but we also want to be zoning in a little bit on the work of teachers and how the degree might be helpful if you are a teacher. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. A little bit on my background. My doctorate is actually in human development, developmental psychology. I'm kind of focused on family and parenting psychology. And then I teach mostly statistics and research design, the classes that not everybody loves, but I think everybody comes to appreciate in the end. It's a really great class. I love it. And just have really enjoyed working in psychology at DMU, learning about the integrative and working in that integrative approach to psychology space. So for today, I have a couple. I'm thinking, why study psychology as a teacher? So if you can put it in the chat or in the Q&A, why do you think it's helpful to study psychology as a teacher? If you want to put something in the chat, if you've no teachers, you are a teacher. If you want to have a thought or put something in the chat. If not, you can add it later. We'll keep going, and then you can add a thought later. Being a teacher in this day and age is, as we know from the research literature, a challenging vocation. It's a beautiful vocation. It's not an easy vocation. Some of it is there's kind of increased number of kids who come from homes that are not as stable as they used to be, maybe, and they bring that hard stuff that they experience at home to the classroom, right? If things were disruptive at home, it's hard for kids to regulate emotion to an extent that it would not spill over in the classroom, right? And we see that increase in some behavioral difficulties, emotion regulation difficulties, which is kids bringing stuff from their harder and less stable family environments to the classroom. Kind of with that, we see that more and more teachers kind of struggle with feeling burned out, feeling fatigue, feeling exhausted. Is one of the top 2 occupations for occupational burnout right now. And especially, of course, since COVID-19, right? We have that even a little bit harder window. And female teachers more so at risk than male teachers. And teacher well-being, like everybody's well-being, totally affects quality of life, right? Affects our emotional, mental well-being, and affects teacher attrition, right? We have fairly high turnover in the school system, and that is also not quite as much in private schools, and especially private Catholic, private faith-based schools, but also to an extent. So how can this program and Jody, I see a Q&A or comment, if you want to read that for us.
Okay, sure. Okay, let me get a kid here. Julia, hold on 1 second. And please don't mind me. I may be leaving the webinar. I'm not a teacher. I'm just listening to hear more about, psychology. But
yeah, and we'll give an overview of the program as well.
Yeah, be patient. Yeah, be patient. Okay.
So then teaching quality, right, is affected by teacher well-being, which is true for all professions, right? If we do well in our profession, that can be leadership, that can be a CEO, that can be engineer, right? If we do well, we tend to do better in our jobs, right? And then actually for teachers, academic achievement, student academic achievement is actually affected pretty clearly by teacher well-being. So I just put the picture here, right? I love that. And we get this from the psychological research on well-being, on the well-being of the person. We have that balance between resources, right? Psychological, social, physical, and challenges, right? Obviously, everybody has challenges, and this is across all jobs, right? Doesn't mean if you're a CEO, you're a priest, you're a chaplain, right? That balance between challenges and resources, if they are somewhat balanced, we have higher levels of well-being. That's why we think the MSP and the Master in Psychology gives a lot of those resources to offset the challenges people face in their professional, spiritual, ministry lives to achieve the well-being of the person. So just a little bit about the program and kind of our approach to psychology. I love the way we do psychology at the DMU. Our outlook is not so much putting out a bunch of knowledge. Our outlook is really a formation in education, right? We're not just gaining a ton of knowledge, but we go through a formative process as students walk through the program. The soul is perfected by knowledge and virtue, right? That's Thomas Aquinas. It is not just knowledge that is helpful, but we need really good knowledge to have a solid psychological knowledge base to use that in different settings. So there are three core areas to our program, our study of psychology, that we focus on and that apply to people in the teaching profession. I think is very, very helpful, but apply to all the other professions that we have people coming from as well. First one is understanding of self and others. As we grow in our understanding of ourselves and others and behaviors, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We tend to do better. Growing personally, spiritually, and professionally, right? We don't want to leave the program the way we entered the program. And helping individuals and groups towards flourishing, right? Psychology is one of the falls many times under the broader umbrella of helping professions, and that can be human services, but they can also be transformational leadership, and that can be ministry, right? But the trajectory, the outlook we have is that we gain the skills and the knowledge so we can aid others towards flourishing. Understanding self and others. This is helpful for as you think about other professions, but especially as a teacher. I think this is a core piece that helps you be successful and prevents burnout and fatigue in your profession, right? We teach the view of the person through the lens of psychology, but also through the lens of the Catholic Christian vision of the person. Seeing the person through that lens gives an incredibly new perspective, a new, more hopeful outlook on working with the person. One of those is we see the person, that went too fast. We see the person as created, we see the person as fallen and redeemed, right? Seeing the dignity of the person by nature of being created in the image of God guides our work with others, right? I do a little bit of private practice on the side. I'm mostly at DMU, but a couple of evenings a week I do private practice. When I work with people who are in a really hard place and they have made some choices that have not been good for them, and they're living in those hard consequences of other people not having been good to them, and they maybe having coped in a way that was not helpful for them. Seeing the person as created in the image of God, fallen, redeemed, gives me this like tapping into the createdness of the person, right? And you see as a teacher, K through 12, if they've had a really hard thing at home, they come to the classroom, they're just squirming and worming and talking and being disruptive because they just don't even know how to process their emotions. Pausing and seeing them as in their createdness and tapping into that goodness by creation, I think gives us another hopefulness, another avenue to engage and look at the person. Secondly, what's really helpful is understanding behavior, emotions, thoughts in ourselves as well in others. It's really helpful to have a paradigm to see students at, but also see people in parishes at, people we work in, companies who work for us. Seeing the person developmentally, right? It's really, really helpful. Prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until the age of 25, right? So logical reasoning is a little slower until the age of 25. Really, really helpful when I work with young adults and young people to think they're going to be, the emotional reaction is just faster because that's how the brain works at that age. So having an understanding of how the person works, how the brain works, how emotional development, what that looks like, cognitive, spiritual development, gives me a resource that helps me offset some of the challenges I face in teaching, in ministry, school settings, businesses. Abnormal, and we have a class in psychopathology. This is important to be well-versed, well-literate in psychology. And also in this study of psychology, psychopathology, we want to know when to recognize and refer, right? When is a moment where it's important to refer to a professional clinical mental health person, but also for us to see what are environments that add risk or that promote resilience, right? We want to create cultures for well-being. Taking a class, everybody takes a class on biological, affective, and cognitive bases for behavior. Understanding how do emotions develop? What's the psychology of motivation, right? Some kids in school do not care, right? They are not engaged. They don't care if they don't do their homework, right? Understanding psychology of motivation helps us explore other avenues to connecting with the kid. Social psychology, understanding group behavior, cultural behavior, really, really helpful in understanding the individual within the group and cultural setting that we experience them in. So that's kind of in that area of understanding self and others, and having a paradigm for understanding behavior, thoughts, emotions. Also very, very helpful in understanding myself, right? To understand when does my emotional reaction not quite match the situation, right? I think everybody has those moments where maybe I react more or less emotional, or maybe I'm more angry. My thoughts are racing, right? Everybody has those moments. Everybody has different triggers for those moments. Understanding myself better helps me to regulate my own emotions better, makes me more effective in my work with others. Learning and having that resource available makes people more effective in a vast variety of work and ministry settings. Second is growing personally, spiritually, and professionally. We hope, and our desire is that people do not leave the program the way they entered. That is for their spiritual well-being, as well as for their personal growth and their professional skill development. One of it is a scientific mindedness that is not a knowledge you gain, but that is a skill and a outlook, a way you can approach situations, a way you can find psychological explanations for behavioral phenomena, right? You have a resource, you have a base of knowledge from psychology that you can apply to your work at ministry setting. So we teach scientific mindedness. We also have that through different exercises and discussions, that growing in emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence linked very highly as a protective factor against burnout, not only in teachers, but in all professions. So having that as part of your personal development journey is a huge asset, huge resource that you can take to your work and ministry. In the school setting, very much needed because it is a more challenging setting in this day and age, but any other work and ministry setting as well. Our students, graduates, I think, are well psychologically literate. It's very important to have a deep and thorough knowledge base in psychology, so you can apply that knowledge base to your work at ministry settings. So you will develop a solid psychological knowledge base while you're in the program. And then you have learning a way for innovative and integrative applications to solve problems, right? You're adding to your resources, to your skills, to your outlook, so you can think through new applications, new ways of solving problems that you encounter in your work as a teacher, in your ministry, in your work as whatever else, wherever you are working. Secondly, we have kind of this outlook that there's these, the three areas of vocation: personally, spiritually, relationally, and then professionally, that we desire for people to experience growth in all three of those areas. So if you are a teacher, that you flourish vocationally as a teacher, but also personally, spiritually, and relationally. Throughout the program, we have different pieces embedded into the courses that encourage self-reflection, growth and self-regulation in the context of professional work. We have a flourishing development plan where people step back and process long-term and short-term goals and think through pathways to reach those goals. We do a thing that's called the WHOOP. It's a motivational intelligence tool. It's very well researched. So we have several places in the program. It has to do with a goal setting and developing the motivational intelligence to reach the goals you're setting. We have that outlook of growth and virtue throughout the program, that you don't just learn knowledge, but you have a love and a new insight and new imagination of what growth and virtue looks like. And then we have skills and knowledge for your professional development. Then the third part is the desire and the skills to lead individuals and groups to flourishing. I think if you are a teacher, or if you are a priest, missionary, or somebody who is in leadership, right, that desire to help other people you work with and for or teach, you want them to do well, right? You want them to flourish. You want them to grow. And having the skills to make that happen is extremely joyful and extremely helpful. So interpersonal relating and communication skills, we have different, some live Zoom meetings where we work on interpersonal relating and communication skills. We work on becoming and growing and being an empathic listener, to build trust and build safety in the people we talk with. Another piece of this is the ability to express yourself well, both in writing and in speaking. Some of that is APA style. It's always a little bit of a learning curve, but everybody masters it pretty much by course 2. People are doing pretty good. But to have a voice in this world that is increasingly secular and maybe not as reflective sometimes, to be able to be heard, especially with our integrative approach to psychology, we need to express ourselves well, right? We need to be able to present our thoughts, our ideas well to be heard. I think we're teaching that skill in this program, which is a huge asset as people move into the professional world. And finally, we do this, give the skills to evaluate effectiveness of programs. Super important in the school setting, working with married couples, working with parents. There's a million programs out there. There's a million ideas. To have the tools to be able to evaluate, is this actually a helpful program, or is it just another thing out there? How do I know if it's effective? How do I know if it's actually a helpful thing to use? Having this skill to evaluate effectiveness of programs is a huge asset in the work world and in the ministry world, not used often enough in the ministry world. So it's an asset, I think, to many. So kind of as the overview is of our program, what are the core pieces? We have that understanding of self and others, thoughts, behaviors, emotions. We have that emphasis on growing personally and professionally and spiritually, the scientific mindedness and personal, professional, spiritual development. And then the skills and knowledge to lead others, individuals and groups to flourishing. There's communication and relating skills. There's also knowing ethical behavior in the diverse world. We have that course in cross-cultural and social psychology, where you learn to understand cross-cultural behaviors and relate cross-culturally. So this just, if there's questions, let me know. Excited to be a teacher, a leader. Welcome to your journey of studying psychology. If you are joining the program, if you have questions, reach out to me, reach out to Joe. We'd love to answer questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe to give a little bit more of an overview of the different aspects of the program.
Thank you, Julia. Well done and well said. I couldn't have said it any better. So, and that's our program chair, and she keeps the engine running, so to speak. So, and I am going to share my screen real quick. And with mine, okay, here we go. But I know this is a different type of webinar to where we're focusing on teachers, K through 12. And I know in many states, if you're a teacher, not a teacher, you could, if you have your bachelor's degree in K through 8, you can start teaching. But in most cases, in 5 years, you have to have a master's degree of some sorts. And I just think, a master's of psychology is going to help so much in, in circumventing problems. I mean, you can see things as a teacher, things going on, how to, maybe, keep bad things from happening. And in most states, if you get a bachelor's degree teaching, it bumps you up a pay grade. And, I studied a site in the state of Illinois on teachers who had just a bachelor degree and those had a master's degree. And the master's degree people doubled their income. And when I lived in Florida, there was such a need for teachers that if you had a bachelor's degree in anything, you did like a 6-week course over the summer, and they got you ready to teach. And teaching is a great profession. However, there are so many more dimensions in this program other than teaching. And but we're starting this now because we want to get the word out. If you know teachers that need to get their masters, or if you're a teacher now, it could be a possibility or a option for you. So anyway, I'll go through this pretty quick. Actually, Julia, she covered the curriculum very well, but it is 100% online, meaning that the only time you have to go to campus is for graduation, and no GRE required, which is the graduate record exam. So no big tests that you gotta pay for and prep for. We have other admissions standards, and then that's me, of course. And then we are accredited by the Southern Association of Schools. And the Southern Accreditation handles, colleges from Virginia down to Florida, over to Texas, and up around to Kentucky. And it's, regional accreditation is very important because it means we have to meet certain standards. And we were formed in 1998 in the state of Virginia. So really, we're a pretty young university. However, we get better and better every semester and every year. And we were originally the Institute for Psychological Sciences, and we changed our name to Divine Mercy in 2015 to make it, consistent. And we are a Catholic graduate university, and all we teach is psychology. We do, and graduate level work in psychology, master's of psychology, doctorates in psychology. And then the how is a master's degree different than other degrees in psychology? Online. It is asynchronous, meaning that you can study when you want to, whether you're an early morning person, late night person. You do a little bit each day, put it off the weekend. There's still deadlines, and but you have to do the work, but you do it on your own time. And our instructors are very, very, very good. They are professionals. They're all PhDs. And just because someone has a PhD doesn't mean they're great teachers. Well, these are great teachers because they help you learn. They help you learn. Big difference from teaching and learning. and we are informed by the Catholic Christian meta model of the human person. So, in secular psychology, you just deal with the mind and behavior. That's it. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. And we deal with the whole person, their mind, their heart, and their spirit. And very important. And I'm going to get to this in a minute, we infuse the flourishing. And we do this through psychology, some philosophy and theology. Now, we do not have religion courses in this program. However, all our courses are infused with some theology, and that helps with the flourishing part. Then these are some of the benefits you can get from getting a master's degree in psychology. And I'll just let you read these. And what Dr. Julia Costley said was, you got to know yourself first. And in a program like this, you're going to do some deep thinking and soul searching to where, what am I? What am I going to do? So you put aside all your biases and, prejudgments. And when you deal with a person, you deal with them, everything aside, being empathetic with them. And you put yourself in that other person's place. And those are the skills you learn. And then your advanced skills. Here are some of your advanced skills. And what Dr. Julia Costley said is, program evaluation. You have to be able to determine, are we making progress? Quantitatively, qualitatively, through numbers or through inference, to, are we going in the right direction, or do we need to, change courses or a plan of action? And in our program, we have 5 different concentrations, and they are marriage and family, human services, leadership, pre-PhD, and self-design. And this is 100% online. Okay. There are 2 days you have to be, it's mandatory that you are online for what we call virtual residency. And you'll love it once you get into it, but this is not towards licensure. We call ourselves the counselors in faith. And we try to circumvent or head off problems before they get worse, as opposed to in counseling, sometimes they're already broken and you got to go back and forth in that. But we are fire preventers as opposed to firefighters. But anyway, what constitutes a concentration is 3 electives that are related to the area, like marriage and family, the marriage and family systems, flourishing. We speak about flourishing a lot, and flourishing is just, it's your spirit transferring to them. That's what it is. Making people feel good, giving them hope, and then marriage and family interventions. And then in the here, then in human services, their 3 electives are relationships, interventional skills, personality, individual differences, and group counseling work. Then the leadership. We have students who, instead of getting an MBA, they're going to get their master's degree in psychology. They know how to crunch numbers, okay, but they want to learn about people, and it's just so very, very, important. But transformational leadership skills, and many of our students is, look, I know I need to get a master's degree in psychology because I want to get my PhD, such as Dr. Julia. And instead of doing the different electives, we do 6 courses on thesis writing. And, you know, in a thesis, well, that's something you'd have to do if you do a PhD. And in a thesis is different than a capstone paper, which everybody writes, is because you have to be able to defend your thesis orally in front of a panel, 3, 4, 5 people, and they question, you know, what you wrote. And you have to say, hey, you know, that's what it is, and I'm defending it. And then the most popular elective is self-design, and they pick one out of each of these groups. You know, marriage and family, leadership, and human services, and they can make their own on that. And again, whatever whatever your concentration is, besides PhD, it's still a stepping stone to get your PhD. And if your grade averages weren't so good in college, well, if you can get a real good grade point average in our master's degree, man, that pulls a lot of weight. And then these are some of the different areas that our graduates have gone into, and these are areas that our graduates have gone into. I'll just let you read those. You know, from social services, industry, ministry, education. And then in healthcare and mental services, I mean, there's such a need for folks who, with psychology degrees, because they can understand people. They don't, let's face it, in psychology, you don't tell people what you do. You ask them questions and let them figure out what they need to do. And then in the business world, I mean, a lot of marketing today comes down to focus groups, and they need psychology majors to help determine, well, how to sell your product. And then in parishes and dioceses, I mean, I have a student, she is an office manager for a parish in California, but she sees people, they come to her because they trust her. And she wants to have the skills to help them before it gets bad or worse. And then, of course, in child and family services, that is consistent in all areas, all states, and that. And in this area, it's not so much solving problems, but helping people get to the right resources, whether it's childcare, food stamps, education, transportation. And then for state and local government, depending upon where you live, I mean, state and local government love psychology folks because, again, they do more listening than talking. And then of course, your parishes, I mean, they always need, leaders who can help, with things like retreats, marriage encounters, confirmation, and it just, it's wonderful. And then our online classroom, well, a lot of people in 2020 with COVID, they had no choice. If you wanted to go to school or continue your education, you had to do it online, as well as teachers. But it's the same atmosphere of student participation of teachers. And we have a fast turnaround. Well, let me go back. Same atmosphere of student teachers. And when I was in college, say I was in a class of 20 people, I may have known 2 people. I didn't know the other 18 people. But here you get to know everybody. And, fast turnaround being that if you email your instructor about a question, they're to be back with you in 24 hours, or a fellow student. And likewise is if, they email you, you should be back with them timely. And we do the 5 sensory learning points to help you learn. Video books, classroom tutorials, and audiobooks. I mean, I love audiobooks. They make my my drive seem, like if an hour drive, it seems like it's 20 minutes because I'm engaged. And we use Canvas. That is our platform for education. And, There are many different platforms for education. It started out with Blackboard. Great. It was great. It gets better and better. But Canvas it's the best for students and the instructors, and 24/7 open access, meaning that you can study when you want to, as long as you have a connection. So if you're a late night person, early morning, you spread it out during the week, defer it to the weekends. You still have deadlines, but it will get done. And then here are our instructors. Dr. Costley is the I call her the program chair, and she's wonderful. Her specialties, marriage and family, and then Dr. Williamson, Giovanni, Christopher Gross, Anna Pecoraro, and Mentor. These are the instructors you would encounter most. And then they're good instructors, but they want to help you learn. And then we have 2 paths to completion: a 16-month path. A path is when you start to when you finish, and a 16-month completion and a 26-month completion. And the big difference is this: in 26 months, you take 1 course per term. And in a trimester, we have 2 terms in a trimester. So in a trimester, you'd be taking 2 classes. In the 16-month, in the trimester, you'd be taking 4 classes, or 2 for 8 weeks, and then 2 for the other 8 weeks. And when I used to take 6 classes a semester, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That's all I got to take? That's great. And then here are our acceptance requirements. You must have a bachelor's degree, and you must have at least a 2.5 or better grade average, or 2.75 to be competitive, or be in a 16-month program. 2 letters of recommendation. These can be from your spiritual leader, bosses, people you've worked for. It just can't be from your best friend or brother and sister. And a written statement of intent, which is it's about a 300 to 500 word essay. And this is a simple form saying, I am here now in 2023. I want to be here in 2025. And this is how the Master's of Psychology degree is going to help me get there. And that, that's a simple form. You can, put it in any form you want, as long as it makes sense. And then TOEFL, that means to others, English is a foreign language. So if English is not your first language, you may have to take a TOEFL test. And then we do have financial aid, which is in the form of, when you get into your graduate level, they don't do grants anymore. It's all loans. And if you qualify for them, but we do a lot of scholarshiping to counteract it, like early scholarships, depending upon your organization. You can write for them, by essay based, to get, money taken off on your course. But when you apply to school, if you submit an application, we get you to financial aid to find out, what's the best arrangement. And then here are our expenses. And this is for the 26 months. Okay. And it comes out to, $28,805. And this one area here, virtual residency, this is the only time for 2 days you have, it's mandatory. It's mandatory. And you are online with the group, your fellow students, the instructors, on a big Zoom meeting from 10 in the morning till 5 at night on a Friday and Saturday, usually after your first class. It's so great because it just really reinforces everything you've learned in your first class, and it's great. Now, if you take the 16-month option, we reduce your tuition by 50% on the second class, so that would be right around $21,000. And now again, what I'm showing you is covers everything for the whole program, books and everything else like that. And then we do have a $55 application fee, which I can waive for you. And then I call these the big 4 questions. And please think about these. And you know yourself better than I. Some of you I know because I know who signed up for the webinar. But will the completion of this program help you obtain your goals? And what you want to do? Is this path going to take me there? And will the scheduling requirements work for you? Well, in reality, if you do the 26-month, which is 1 class per term, you're looking at about 15 hours per week. And if you do the 16-month option, you're looking at about 22 hours per week. And you have to carve out that time, make a time management plan, whether you do it early in the morning, late at night, on the weekends, defer it till Sunday night, where you lock yourself in the bedroom and get things done from noon to 8. That's up to you. But you have to get the work done, and there are deadlines on everything. So, and we do have breaks. We have breaks. I mean, we have a generous summer break from mid-July to August, a great Christmas break, and then a spring break, about 11 or so days in that. So we do give you time off in that. And then, do financial options work for you? Well, once you submit an application, we get you with financial aid, and we'll figure out if it's going to work for you. Okay. And then, can you commit to successful completion of the program? Which means, hey, if you start it, complete it. And there are always going to be bumps on the road in between. I mean, something happens, this and that. Well, in instances like that, being my own self, being a master's degree student later in life is, sometimes I had to, I got to defer it all to the weekend because I got to deal with this now. To asking my instructor maybe for permission for a little bit of leeway because I had a problem going. And we want to communicate with you, but it's doable. And then that's me, of course. And then please remember, these are the skills learned. Listening empathetically is support. Listening empathetically is when you put yourself in the other person's place. And this is easier said than done. And we certainly work on this with you. And if you put aside your own biases in that and listen to them, most people are going to tell you, what is going on. And then, again, it's not a license, so you have to refer. Sometimes you got to say, hey, look, I can't deal with you. I need to get you to a licensed professional. And then building trust, big thing. And I think a lot of you, I may have talked to you before, but you're the type person, all your friends, relatives, coworkers come to you with their problems, and they want to tell you about this and that. So you're a pseudo psychologist, there. But they do that because they trust you. They know that if they tell you their problems, it goes no further than there. And then, but for the ministry, more effective involvement in lay ministries, and again, the big thing, deepen understanding of the interrelatedness of body, mind, and spirit. And recap, one more slide. Our concentrations are marriage and family, leadership, self-design, human services, and pre-Ph.D. And the most popular one, self-design, because they can choose their own electives. And so, but anyway, this is the finale. And we do have $55 application fee. I can waive that if you submit an application. And that's it. And I thank you so much for taking part in this webinar. And I hope to get back to everybody with a little message and hopefully can help you some way, or, if this is not for you, I'm the type of person, I will certainly direct you in the right direction for help. I mean, I'm a career counselor by heart. So anything else, Dr. Julia, that you'd want
Well, I
to
saw
say?
Sarah raised her hand. Do you want to put your question in the
Oh,
chat, or do you want to just ask your question?
okay, I see it. Yes, we do. Student success works with student accommodations. And you have to tell them about that. But her name is Marita McCormick, and she does student success, and she does special accommodations also. So yes, thank you, Julia. I didn't see that. Anything else, everybody?
Benjamin, I see you have raised your hand. Do you have a question?
Benjamin.
I can see if you can unmute yourself. Roberto, can people just unmute themselves, or otherwise put the question in the Q&A or in the chat?
Well, I don't. Okay. Oh, I see one here.
Okay, so you can start in May if you want to keep going right away, or you can start August after your graduation. Right?
That's
If you graduate May 24, or right, most graduations are early May. You could start that late. We always start this year's 23rd of May, end of May is when summer starts. So then you would apply that March, so you can do your program orientation and jump in the summer cohort. Or if you want to take the summer off, then apply in May and start in the August cohort. Great question.
That's right, Julia. Joshua, now that I know you are here, Joshua, I'll get with you sometime first of the year in 24. And what I do is you've already been through the hard part, which is this, but we get a little bit more into your goals and things like that. So I won't forget you. And then how many people typically
I
in a
don't know.
cohort?
Joe, do you have a question, an answer? I have, is that for scholarship for financial aid, right?
Well, no, this one is out of line, said about how many are in a cohort. About 20. Usually about 20 students, sometimes more, sometimes less. So, but they're all dedicated and wanting to get their master's degree, and they will interact with each other. So Adeline, I hope that answers your question.
When we do, normally the cohorts have a WhatsApp chat, so you can, I'm sorry, my dogs are working. So we have each cohort normally starts a WhatsApp chat, so you're connecting with people in your cohort, which I think people have really liked.
Yeah, they become your virtual friends for life because you have the same goals and aspirations. So it's good. I mean, it's just that we have people all around the country, all around the world in our programs. We have folks from, of course, mostly from the United States. We have folks from Australia, New Zealand, Africa, the Philippines, and that. And again, most of the time their times are opposite of ours. Like right now it is 8, almost 9 o'clock, and in those countries it's 9 in the morning. So but anyway, they're part of that cohort too. Then I have another one.
Yeah, other questions? Anybody have other questions? Sammy, do you want to give a little more? So I don't know about the VR or EVA. That's a financial aid question, so I'm not quite sure.
What was that again, Julia?
Look in the chat if you click on the chat. In the meantime, other questions? People have other questions for us?
Well, VR, I'm assuming, is voc rehab. And I mean, I've dealt with a lot of voc rehab folks, and that is sometimes state federal funding that, if you go into a program, they have to prove it, and they'll help you with, tuition, maybe not all of it, but they'll help you somewhat. But on a, what's that?
I see another question about time commitment. So it is, we say 15 to 20 hours for one class. If you take 2 classes, double that. there are no live required lectures other than residency in course 1. That's 2
Right.
days, 10 to 5 Eastern, that is required. We have optional Zoom meetings. A lot of people like those because they can ask questions. But apart from that, there's no required, you have to be in the Zoom room together. There's 2 courses that are both electives. You don't have to take them, skills class and group counseling, where you do have live Zoom meetings that are required because
Oh,
you're
okay.
assistant doing those 2 courses.
Okay.
So, great question.
But all in all, you do it from your home.
Yeah, everything from your home. You never have to come. If you don't come to graduation, we mail your transcript and everything. So you don't have to.
Although we'd like to see you come to graduation.
We love it when people come. Definitely want to come. Any other question? I think Adeline, I saw you raised your hand shortly. Any other questions?
But yeah.
All right.
But I mean, as far as student accommodations, I mean, we do IEPs, which are individual educational plans, for the master's degree level. I mean, we want to help you to learn, and we want to see you succeed. And helping you learn will help you succeed. So,
All right. There's no other questions. I think we are at the end of our time. So good. Thanks for coming. I think Joe will be in touch, correct?
right.
And,
Well, one student said, Dr. Julia Costley, will be graduating in the spring of 2024. When should I apply? And I think you said in maybe January 2024.
well, probably February, March, right? If you want to start in May, apply in May. If you want to start in August, depending on if you want to keep going right away, if you want to take the summer off.
Okay. So, but you always look, why should I start in the summer? I want to take my summer off after school. Well, and like any college, our tuition goes up every year. And what I showed you is our tuition now. So for fall of 2023, it'll be more. It'll be a little bit more tuition. But then in 24, it'll be a little more tuition. But if you start in the summer of 2024, it'll be less than starting in the fall of 2024. I mean, who wants to pay more? And, the biggest difference is, I mean, you'll be, 3 months ahead. And the great thing about our summer term is this, and Dr. Julia, is you take one class, if you start one class for 8 weeks, and then you have your virtual residency, and you get a 5-week break, roughly. Is that correct? Yep. I mean, that's nice. And it's a good way to ease into it. And the only thing I can say is once you take that first course, 550, Flourishing, you'll want more. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your attendance. And you can, call me, email me, whatever. And I will try to get back with you to see different things about, when you graduate, to your goals and that. But fantastic. And thank you, Dr. Julia Costley. I mean, she's the expert. You heard from her. So, bye now. See you.
Have a great night, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.